And we are back live here in the VM Underground Show, worldwide broadcasting in Southern California. Yes.
Go ahead, continue.
There you go. We are back. Now, finally, let's see how long this lasts. We got all night, believe it or not. We got all night.
Awesome.
Until my battery runs out anyway.
Yeah, at least until they kick us off the stream. There you go. If they haven't already done it. We're here, the one and only Don Henrie, Vampire Don Henrie, and of course we got Bon Necron as well too. We were talking about the whole views about religion and everything else, and of course his view on was a pantheism as well too. Let's throw that in and finish that off really quick. You were talking about pantheism.
Yep, pantheism is the proposition of the philosophy that all gods are valid in as much as they connect into the divine, being. So that just the name and the image of a god, that's what I refer to as a god form. Those vary throughout cultures, and they vary throughout worlds, actually, where different, you might have different iconography of different gods and goddesses. But behind that iconography, and behind the names even, there is a spiritual reality, an intelligence, that you can connect into. And so the images of the gods that we have and the names are just formula. It's like having a phone number for somebody. It's your way of getting a hold of them, but it's not them. Mm-hmm. Spiritual reality exists universally. And so, for example, I might use my altar of Mars, and I might have a statue of Mars and burn red candles on that altar and use that as a connecting point. But it's just like phoning your friend.
That's powerful energy there.
It's dialing into the God, and then the God has a reality beyond form, because the gods exist beyond form, and they're worshipped in different worlds under different forms and different names. So that's something that pantheists recognized even in the ancient world, where they would go from one culture to another, and they would say, yes, I recognize your God as being the same as my God over here, because I can feel the energy and I know the essence of that God to be the same, and I can communicate to that God. But people get, unfortunately, the Messianics defamed that because they thought you were worshiping an idol, you were worshiping an object, and that's not what was going on at all. If from the educated, they were using those simply as a way of mentally connecting yourself into the spiritual.
Construct.
Exactly.
Construct.
But they weren't worshiping. I don't worship a piece of stone. That would be absurd. But the image of Mars, in his armor, reminds me of his nature and allows me to connect into that specific energy wavelength that connects me into the divine energy, which is the universal God, which is Mars.
Mm-hmm. And what's your take on that, Don?
That's some powerful energy right there, especially when you brought up Mars as an example, I guess. Yes, you can actually channel into other types of things too. It goes down even to like the most basic of even magics, which is, I guess you'd say that's why they call it lower forms and such, versus the higher forms, which would be a higher thought form, is what he was just speaking about. Mm-hmm. The lower forms would actually be involving things of nature and the earth and such, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. When you're talking about dialing in and contacting somebody and that sort of thing and everything, we can talk about the whole thing about afterlife as well, too.
Okay.
And that sort of thing as well. But what if someone's like, okay, that God or this God? What if someone that's like a polytheism, that sort of thing, and belief in many and stuff like that? And some people say, well, they take on different, like a big salad bar of gods and that sort of thing. I mean, how does that work out and everything when it comes to calling on different spirits if they believe in that?
Well, whether you believe in them or not, they exist. The difference between a true polytheist versus a pantheist. As a pantheist, I say, when I connect into Apollo, Mars, Isis, Diana, they have individual personalities. Each one I can speak to distinctly, but they also have a common energy about them, which I recognize as being divine. So it's like if you take white light and you break it up through a prism, you'll get the different colors of the rainbow. Each color has its own personality. Red has a different personality from green versus yellow versus orange, but they all exist together in the divine light. So there's a common essence to them that announces their divinity, and you know that when you experience that. But yet each has an individual personality, and you can broaden that out even further. And all of the gods and goddesses that are true gods and goddesses. I'm not saying that everything worshipped as a god or goddess is truly divine, but of all the gods, they have an individual intelligence that you can communicate with and contact and have conversations with, as I do on a regular basis.
Wow.
But they also have that divine love, which is universal, that penetrates all things. So you can recognize them in many manifestations and many different types of energies. In the daemon realms, they have the same gods. It's just you have to recognize them through a common energy pattern or essence. But these are universal gods. They're not just of this planet.
Okay, really, really quick, let me add in something really fast. When you're talking about that, I mean, calling them in and everything else, is this kind of like just on a spirit form, or does it like embody different people and stuff like that? Can they speak through different people, like almost like possession in a way, you know, that sort of thing? Or does that work out that way, or is it just on a spirit level?
In my experience, the difference between gods and other beings, other intelligent beings, in my experience, is that the gods never impose themselves. And that's one key aspect of their nature that is a good way to tell the difference between a jinn that might be announcing itself, saying, bow down and worship me, I am a great and powerful, you know, they'll announce themselves as whatever and demand obeisance. The gods never do that. They're very powerful by their nature, but they don't impose themselves, and I'm not ever familiar of a god dispossessing somebody forcibly. You can invoke them and bring them into yourself or through an altar, but it's different from an entity that would dispossess a person. And like I said, not everything worshipped as a god is truly a god. Sometimes